Donald Trump became the first president in 20 years to visit the Department of Justice Friday, and he delivered a highly politicized speech as he vowed to end what he has so often called the weaponization of federal law enforcement. Chanley Painter is live with that story tonight. Good evening, Chanley.
Hey, Jonathan, so law and order is back, according to President Trump, after taking a victory lap at the Justice Department today, where just a year ago, prosecutors were working to put him behind bars. Those federal indictments dismissed after he won re-election. And while at the department, the president slammed the weaponization of justice under the Biden administration and promised to restore trust in the department.
We must be honest about the lies and abuses that have occurred within these walls. They weaponize the vast powers of our intelligence and law enforcement agencies to try and thwart the will of the American people.
Meanwhile, outside the DOJ, top Democrats strongly rebuked Trump's unprecedented visit.
This thoroughly partisan and delusional diatribe was a staggering violation of the traditional boundary between independent criminal law enforcement and presidential political power.
Meantime, in courtrooms across the country, legal challenges are working to thwart the president's executive power. Right now, more than 120 cases have been launched against the Trump administration agenda, including a judge ordering 6 federal agencies to reinstate employees fired during Trump's federal workforce purge, and another judge ruling late Thursday that thousands of probationary employees must be temporarily reinstated to their jobs. Well, Caroline Leavitt had this to say, quote, "The president has the authority to exercise the power of the entire executive branch. Singular district court judges cannot abuse the power of the entire judiciary to thwart the president's agenda. If a federal district court judge would like executive powers, they can try and run for president themselves." The Trump team is also asking the Supreme Court to step in on the president's effort to end birthright citizenship. We will see what they do, Jonathan.
Chanley Painter, thank you, Chanley. Great to see you. And with us now, criminal defense attorney and federal litigator Vikas Bajaj. Vic, great to see you, first of all.
Likewise, thank you.
Unprecedented, not entirely. Other presidents have been inside the Department of Justice before, but it's usually been for more ceremonial occasions, certainly not, as far as I can remember, a speech as fiery as this one. How unusual did you see this as?
It was quite unusual when you look at just numerical probability of this happening, but it was so symbolic that it could have been predicted. If you remember the walk between now Attorney General Pam Bondi and President Trump into the house there, into that room, what did he do? They stopped, they looked back, and they made sure. Pam Bondi said, "President Trump, you need to see that it's your picture on the top of that doorway." It was symbolic, it was predictable. Also, what Donald Trump said really should send shivers up some people's spines. What he's saying is there was obstruction of justice within these halls. There was theft from the American people within these halls, and surely there was perjury within these halls. These are criminal accusations. He makes it very clear, as President of the United States, I'm not saying there's guilt here, but I know the people, Kash Patel with the FBI and Pam Bondi in the Attorney General's office, they're going to spearhead investigations. So a monumental appearance today, the breadth of what he talked about, the fentanyl crisis, the crimes caused by people who are here illegally, and the victims' mothers who actually gave their heartfelt statements. It was symbolic, it was monumental, and it's one for the history book.
And a lot of people more on the left are freaking out about how this was a speech all about retribution, but it was a speech in which he promised to fulfill the promises he made on the campaign trail. This was one of them. Listen to the president here talking about rogue actors.
We will expel the rogue actors and corrupt forces from our government. We will expose and very much expose their egregious crimes and severe misconduct, of which was levels you've never seen anything like it. It's going to be legendary.
And Vic, that is exactly what he promised on the campaign trail. So is it right for people to freak out that he's simply saying it within the Department of Justice, or is that, as you said, entirely predictable?
There's no gray area here. It's wrong. And I'll tell you why. President Trump did not say every Democrat is out of the Department of Justice. He said every corrupt official. That may include a few Republicans. We don't know that. He didn't say if you're my part of my political party, you're safe. Don't worry about us, brothers and sisters. But if you're on the left, on the Democrat Party, well, hey, you know what? You have a lot to worry about, whether you did your job right or wrong. That's not what he said. The adjectives that he uses are very important. Our viewers and listeners need to pay attention to that. Corrupt officials will be targeted. Those who violated the trust will be targeted. Every American citizen in this fine country should listen to that statement, read it on paper, and say, that's what we want our chief enforcement officer, the President of the United States, to say. Get rid of corruption. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you're on the right or smack dab in the middle. If you're corrupt, you're gone.
And on another subject that Chanley mentioned in her report there, these lower court judges who are certainly slowing the roll in terms of parts of the Trump agenda, is that a problematic area, or do they absolutely have the right to issue the rulings that they're issuing?
If you're looking at it from, let's say, 10,000 feet, you would say, wow, this is a bump in the road. If you're looking at it from 30,000 square feet or feet up in the air, you're going to say, hey, you know what, this is expected. This is the process that's always expected. Let's not forget that an appellate court now, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, recently, as of today, this afternoon, reversed an injunction against President Trump's administration's ban on funding contracts for DEI singular policies. So that was an injunction, that was ordered, but a Circuit Court of Appeals in the Fourth Circuit, don't forget, said, hey, you know what, that's too broad. So the problem with a lot of these issues that we're seeing now that are targeting certain things, such as the firing of individuals, birthright citizenship that Chanley talked about, the problem that's being pointed out accurately by the Trump administration is the breadth. It's too broad.
Right.
Each plaintiff must have standing. These lower district courts, even the Court of Appeals that are looking at them, cannot make national judgments. And that's the gravamen of his argument.
And a lot of it's going to end up at the Supreme Court.
It will, absolutely.
Vic, it is always so good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.